Welcome back everyone to Frosty Friday, challenge number 4. So we attempted challenge number week 1 to week 3. So today we're going to attempt challenge number 4, which is of a difficulty of hard, right? So let's just go see what the question entails. So Frosty Friday consult have been hired by the University of Frosty's history department. They want data on monarchs in the data warehouse for analysis. Your job is to take the JSON file located here, ingest it into a data warehouse, and pass it into a table that looks like this. Okay, from my understanding, this is basically telling me, okay, I want to, you know, flatten this JSON object. Let's just see quickly the JSON object. Oh, okay. Flatten this JSON object basically into a table. That's pretty much what it's asking, right? Okay. So if you see here, this is not like any other JSONs that we looked at. This is a nested JSON object, right? So it's a combination of dictionaries, combination of arrays, upon arrays, all sorts, right? You can see here, this is an array, and this is the dictionary here, right? So key value pair. So what we're going to do is, best thing is, if you create an internal stage and download this JSON file and load it into your staging, then that will be best to prepare the question, right? So if you have done so, I'm going to do is, I'm going back to the question, sorry, there was a few bits underneath. Let me see this one. So this is basically telling us to flatten a JSON object into a table, given this, right? Similar to this. We're going to look this in a second later on. So what does it say underneath? So separate columns for nicknames and consorts, 1 to 3 many will be null, and ID in chronological order, birth, and interhouse ID in order as they appear in the file. There should be 26 rows at the end. Let me just quickly copy this bit here. So we just keep this as reference, right? Okay. Now, first things first is I have got mine file into a staging area. So I'm going to do is list week 4 stage. So this is my file, right? Basically, I've downloaded the file and then just name it as week4_challenge.json, and then this file using stage, or using the put command, actually, I've got this file into the stage, right? Now, what I'm going to do next is looking into this. We've got the staging. Now, let me create a file format. So I'm going to create or replace a file format. I'm just going to call it my JSON format. And I'm going to do is type JSON, right? Something like this. And then what I'm going to do is just look into this file, right? The columns. I want to check the columns. So in order to check the columns, you use the info schema method, right? So select from table, right? Info schema, location, arrow sign. The location is going to be week 4 is basically where the file is stored, comma. So I'm just going to do file format. So I'm going to be let's say my JSON format, comma, ignore case equals true, making sure that all the columns are all capitals. Let's run this. Let me see. Oh, make sure there's an arrow sign here. Okay, well, it's not working. Schema inference failed. Array detected instead of an object. Please consider strip out array or what it did JSON data. All right, so if you receive an error, something like this, what I advise to do is, because we're working with nested JSON object, under the file format, so I'm going to do under type JSON, I'm going to say strip out array equals true. Right? This is an indication that it's telling you, okay, we're working with a nested JSON object. If it's like a single level JSON object, right, with dictionary, then that's fine. We don't need that. But because we're working with a nested JSON object with arrays upon arrays, then please make sure to use this in your file format, right? So let me just run this again. Okay, I can see there are 2 columns right in here. We have error and houses. One is varchar, one is array. So, okay, this is not really helping me in any way. It's just basically me checking, okay, what are the columns, right? So what I'm gonna do is just look into this JSON data a bit more, right? The reason why you have houses and you don't have any other columns, such as, let's go back in here, let me just open up the JSON file. Name, nickname, birth. So it's not even mentioned in here because it's an array, right? So you won't be able to see in here. This will only work if it's single level JSON object. So here, this bit here, right? Error. This is not an array. It's just a dictionary, right? To start off with. So that's why it works to use this command here. So what I'm gonna do is just look into this JSON objects, right? So I'm gonna do select metadata. So I'm just gonna get the file name. Right, bit optional, but let's just look through this. Metadata row number as you say file row number. I'm gonna do one column, yeah, it's only one column. First column, you don't need to write something like this. It's just only one column as call it JSON data. That's basically this column here, this first column is going to be the same as this whole message here, right? This whole JSON object. Right, so from week, let me see, week 4 stage, right? Let's say week 4 stage, and then I'm gonna do file format. It's gonna be my JSON format, something like this, right? So I'm gonna do, so if you see here, right? So this is gonna be exactly the same as we got. This is exactly the same as we got in here, right? So the reason why you see two file row number 1, file row number 2 is because look at the JSON object where it says error here, right? So this whole thing is one line of code, and plus you've got a second object here, right? So this is 2. This is number 1 on top. The whole thing is number 1. And if you scroll down here, the next object, right? This subset of the object of a JSON, this is number 2, right? This is why you have received 2 of them, right? So, okay, this is good. So I can see the JSON object in here, right? So if you compare to the previous command, we won't be able to see anything, right? We won't be able to see all the columns. So this is looking good. So what I'm gonna do is what's best to do is just gonna store this as a table quickly. What I'm gonna do is just say create or replace table. Let's just call this row JSON week number 4, right? I'm gonna do that as select statement, right? So it's just gonna run this. Let's see what we get. All right. Okay, let's see what we get while I put output in this table. Okay, it's gonna be the same as the select statement, right? So it's just to check if it's all working well. All right then. Next step, what I'm gonna do is let's just build this JSON object, right? What we got here. Let's just build exactly the same JSON object of picking up the columns and build a table on top of that. One more thing is, if you see here, this select statement, if I run the select statement here, it's going to be similar to this. But if you don't mention this file format, look what will happen, right? Let's run like this. You can clearly see you get the whole JSON object in here, right? This file number is incorrect, obviously, but this is just how many lines of, let's say, line of a JSON object it has, right? So this basically you can see all the special characters here are denoted as one row number. So this is basically the whole JSON object that you're working on. So this is why it's best to indicate or your file format just to make sure that's more readable, right? So even doing that, right, it's the same as the table here, you will get a better output, right? And even pressing on this, like it doesn't really give me the whole because this is just a text file, right? So if I just run this, if you mention the JSON format here, clicking on this, you can see and you can expand this and see the whole JSON file. So this is easier to read, right? So quick tip for that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to build the table, right? So looking into this, going back to this. So I don't need this because I don't need to switch back to see the JSON. I can just use this table and look into here in Snowflake itself, right? So that's good. So I'm going to press on this end result. So first, what's the first column? ID into house ID. What we're going to do is, because I don't see ID into house ID, is we have given a description, right? It says here an ID in chronological order birth. Here birth, this column here, and into house ID in order as that in the file. Okay, we will look these two bit more later. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna start working with the first column, right? What's the third column? Arrow. Okay, let's just start working with this column here. Now, on to build, let's say, a JSON object, what you want to do is the first thing is, okay, let's just say select, right? So let's just build a JSON object, right? Let me just quickly do, okay, that's fine. Just something like that, right? So select, and then the first column. So you can't say something like select error, right? From this row JSON for week. That's not how it works, right? It's not how it works because this column does not even exist. The only columns that row JSON week for exists is file name, file row number, and JSON data. There's no such thing as error, right? In order to get this column and have the first value of pre-transition, what you want to do is first thing, just write JSON data, right? The name of the column, right? You're just basically drilling down the data, JSON data. Use a colon. Now write this bit here, error, right? Error, something like this. Just make sure it's in literals, right? Make sure it's in literals. And then I'm gonna say, but this is optional, but I'm gonna say it's a string. It's a string type, right? And then if you run this, you will have pre-transition, post-transition, right? You see, this is how it works. But this will only work, just going back to this, only single level JSON, right? Because it's single level, right? So if it's tribe of houses, for example, I'm going to use comma, JSON data, houses, right? The reason why I write houses is because they're all in the same line. You can see it all in the same line. Look where the literal is, double literal. They're all in the same line, right? So houses, say string, right? So if you write something like this, look what happened. This is not what I want to do, right? Okay, we got this one, right? If you just go back to the question, the table itself, error, okay. House, I don't get house as a string object. I said it's type string, but it's giving me the whole array, right? So what we're going to do is, okay, let's just quickly fix this bit. This is called JSON data error string. This is not what the column is called. What you're going to do is, of course, use an alias, right? Let me just rerun this again. So this is exactly the same as what we got here, right? Error. And we have two rows. Remember, the question mentioned, I mean, if you look back to the question on the statement, it mentioned that there should be 26 rows at the end. So I got only two, right? Because we need to explode this array in order to get all 26, right? We need to even check whether we have all 26 columns, right? So I'm going to do is, so in order to work with arrays, right, in the JSON object, what you want to do is, okay, I'm just going to click on this. We have house, right? It's not called houses, right? The second column is called what? House, singular, not plural, right? House, Austria, right? In order to do that, so when you're dealing with an array, right? An array JSON object, you say something like this. You put a comma after this table and say lateral flatten, right? So I'm going to flatten this array. Lateral flatten, and then copy this, right? Copy this bit here. So JSON data houses, right? Copy something like this. And give an alias, just to say as H, for example, right? Now, what's this doing? Yeah, let me just run this. Let me see. Okay, now we got a bunch of them, right? So, and we have 6 now, right? Right, so what's this doing is because, you see here, of course, there's some. Okay, let me just look into this a bit later. So what I'm going to do is, the reason why we put this lateral flatten function is because, if you see here, this is an array, right? So if you look back at row JSON week 4, if you just press on this, let me expand this. Houses, this is an array, right? anything you see an array of a nested object, use lateral flatten. That's the technique. So you see an array, use lateral flatten. So if you just go draw down with the data, okay, there's no array here, so I can easily get house as a single output, right? So if I look at the second element, monarch, right? So this is another array, so I need to get another lateral flatten. You have to write another lateral flatten here. So this is how it works. So whenever you see an array, right? Whenever you see an array here, just use lateral flatten, right? So going back to the question. So what's this second column here? We have arrow house, right? So in order to access house, because we got lateral flatten here, so I'm gonna do is just delete. I'm just gonna keep this column here. What I'm gonna do is say h value, right? Just say value because this is what it works, right? Anything you alias this as h, anything you alias within this lateral flatten function, you say h dot value. It's always dot value, something like this, right? And then I'll say house, and then I'm just gonna say this is a type string, right? And just make sure you alias this as house, right? Something like this. So let me just run this. So you can see we got the second column as house, right? So house, Austria, party, Bobo, whatever, right? So we got the second column here. Now, so this is maybe easy because, of course, looking into this, there's only a single line JSON object, right? You see here. Okay, we got this first one. Houses, we use lateral flatten because it's an array. Now I want to pick this column here, right? Because this is not an array, this is just a dictionary, right? House is the key, Austria is the value. Now, let me go back to the question, over to the table actually. Name, right? Name is next. So I don't see name in here, right? So I'm gonna do just scroll. I mean, you don't really need to scroll. I mean, okay, you can see name here, right? But okay, name. So how do we access name here? Even looking at this here, name falls under this element here, which is an array, right? This is an array. So what you have to do is in here, because this is an array, what we're gonna do is comma, yeah, lateral flatten again, lateral flatten. But you don't want to say JSON data. It's not like JSON data and then you say monarch. This is not how it works. This is wrong because JSON data is on top on here, right? The root level. Now going down here, right? If you see here, error, this is the first line, houses. So it goes JSON data dot houses dot monarch, right? So basically something like this: JSON data dot houses, because houses is an array, right? Dot monarch, right? And then every single element you can see here can be accessible through this, right? So in order to do this, it's not called JSON data because we got this bit called as H, right? You can see here, this is called H, right? Because we alias this. So basically this is similar to this, right? So we just alias this as H. So what I'm gonna do is in here, so I'm gonna do H dot value, right? Monarch, yeah, monarch in here. So I'm gonna do as M, right? So this is how it works. Think of this like a tree level structure, right? So this is how it works. So JSON data houses, which is the second level here. So JSON data is root level, houses first line of this data, and then drill deep down into the third element, which is monarch, because it's an array, right? Something like this. And now I'm gonna do is m dot value, right? We will say name, right? String as name, something like this, right? Let me just see if it's working. Let me see. JSON data h value. So let's see. Name. Okay, let me quickly see in here. Okay, let me just flatten JSON data houses as m. Let me see here. Let me quickly run for me. Let me see what error we got in here. System expected. Okay, hold up. Oh, here. Oh, my bad. There's a comma missing. All right. So we have name is null, right? So why is this null? Okay, now look at this, yeah? So why is name null? If you see here, name, you can clearly see here name is null, right? So let me just quickly go back. Why is this null? So I'm going to go run this. Houses. Let me quickly see house, right? Name here, right? Name falls under this monarch, right? Let's see if it's spelling monarch. Okay. And then what I'm going to see here is dot value as m dot value name string as name. Let me see. Here what we're gonna do is see name name name. Okay, let me quickly see something. House name. Okay, let's run this. Okay, let's see. What's giving me now? Lot of flatten h dot value. Name is now. Okay, everything is now here. This should be. If it's a name, this shouldn't be now. This should be given as Felipe. Okay. Oh wait, when did oh, okay, my bad. Double colon. Okay, my bad. It's double colon here. So now you can see the name here, right? So next on the list is let's see, what's the next one? Nickname. Nickname 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So let's go back to this JSON data here. Okay, this is a bit hard to see. If you see here, I mean, okay, we can still use it. I mean, I think it's a bit more difficult to read. Let me just go back to raw JSON week 4 table. It's more easier structured. Nickname. You have nickname. But I've given says nickname 1 to 3. So I do believe nickname is okay here. Now, I do believe that nickname, if you see here, we have 3 columns called nickname 1, 2, 3, right? So the reason is because nickname is actually a type of an array, right? It's not a single value similar to the name. It's not like a dictionary. It's an array. So what we can do is because there are 3 columns, right? Look what would happen if I just type nickname only, right? So I'm gonna do here is nickname falls under what? What array? What's the element? Monarchs, right? So we have this defined already. So I'm gonna do is m value. I'm gonna say let me just increase the size. Nickname, right? So I'm just gonna say here nickname. Make sure it's double string as nickname, right? So I'm gonna run this. Yeah, I can clearly see why. Because you see, nickname is not. I even say it's just type string, but this is not a string, right? This is all just array. But you can see this is an array here, right? Even though I've given this a type string. So what you need to do is because we have given 3 columns, right? Nickname 1, 2, and 3. So the way it works is it's basically an array, right? So you just say here nickname 1, and here after nickname, what you want to do is what you're gonna do is set an element like this 0, right? So if you just run this, so you see this is denote to me the first element of that array, right? So you just go back to raw JSON week 4 data. So looking into this, scroll down to nickname. So this is number 0, right? Element 0, and this is 1 because arrays are 0 based. So I have to do this 3 times, I guess. So I'm going to do something like this, 2 and 3, and this is going to be 1 and 2, right? Just run this. Let's see what we get. Yeah, something like this. So if you go back to the question, let's go back to the table. So nickname 1 these are all non-values. I want to keep this as blank here. Let me just keep this as blank. So if you want to keep this as blank, you say is a null if now. Let me see. If now, right? So I'm gonna do if now string. Keep this as blank. Let me see if it works. It's testing. Okay, it works. So I'm gonna do here if now. If now. So I'm gonna do something like that, right? Okay, let's run this again. Okay, this is because I won't really want to match this output as we got here, right? So something similar to this. All right, what's the next one? Birth, right? So it's gonna go back to this. So just expand this. Birth is under the same. I think pretty much everything is really under the same array anyway, right? So more much. So I'm gonna do is m.value birth type string as birth, right? So looking into this, let's see what we get. Okay, we birth here. All right, notice, yeah, even if I make a spelling error like this, right? This is gonna give me null. And plus, if you keep everything as capital, right, something like this is also null. Just make sure if you write down this column, or if you want to invoke this column, make sure the spelling is exactly the same as the JSON object itself, right? So if you just write birth here, so this will work because this is exactly the same as we got in here, right? If you see the spelling, this is not even a capital, right? Everything is just normal. So the first letter is capital, followed by all lower cases, right? So we got birth, so that's done. Yes, I can see the column here. What's next on the list? Place of birth. All right. So I'm gonna do m dot. Let me just quickly see here. See what the column looks like. Something like that. Place. Is it place of birth or place of birth? Right, here we go. So remember, they all belong to the same array. So I'm gonna do value place of birth. Right, something like this. String as place. Is it underscore in between? Do they have? Yeah, they have underscore in between. Okay, cool. Let's make sure it's similar to what's on the output, right? Birth. All right, running this. Let's see if I have any nulls. Oh, it should be a comma here. Let's see. Okay, we do have some places here. So what's next on the list? Start of rain. So I'm gonna do here is let me just run this. End of rain, start of rain. Okay, cool. Again, m value. Bear in mind this m value because we use this is similar within the same array. So in here, what I'm gonna do is start. Look at this. It's not me writing an underscore. It's exactly the same. It has spaces between, right? So make sure it has exactly the same as this one here, right? String as rain, right? Okay, what's next? I'm not going to execute this. Okay, we have queen console 1, 2, and 3. Okay, this is I guess this is like an array. Okay, this is a single this is a single level line. So okay, we got this. Something like this, right? Okay, this is an array. Similar to nickname, right? Let me quickly see if I run this. If it's all good. Okay, good. What I'm gonna do is go back to this array. Scrolling down to this bit here. m.value. Okay. Consort. Something like this. Something like that. Queen consort. String as what's it name called? Queen or queen consort. Okay. It's a bit of a weird naming here, but okay. Queen or queen. So queen or queen? queen or queen consort 1. All right, cool. Queen consort 1. Right. So what I'm gonna do is run this. Just forget to comment at the end. So I'm gonna do. Probably don't need this anymore. Now, okay, if we go back to the JSON object, let's see. What is it giving us now? Because at least I should have an array as an output, right? Similar to that we've seen as nickname. But if you see here, what's different is, look at these characters here, right? Yes, I set to name exactly the same as what says in here, but because of these special characters below done, that's not unreadable. That Snowflake is not be able to read this, right? Just keep something like this, right? You don't need to have double, forward slashes or backward slashes in here, right? This is how it works. So if you just run something like that, look at this. It's still no. So make sure, even if the object is telling you something like this, right? So let's say exactly what it says on the data, right? So it's telling us how many. Let me quickly see this in here. So something like this, yeah. Make sure if the JSON's giving you like 5 forward slashes, 5 backward slashes, whatever, when you want to output in Snowflake, just keep as this, just 1 forward slash and 1 backward slash, right? So if you just run this, see here, I can see the array here, right? So make sure you understand this. I think this is where the trick entails, because this is a difficulty of heart. Of course, looking into how to, fetch the first element of an array, of a nested object, or something like this. So they want us to understand. So even if we have n number of special characters in between, it's just going to be something like this, right? So because we know this is an array, what we're going to do is, so in here is going to be 0, right? The first element. What I'm going to do is just copy this 3 times, I guess, right? So I'm just going to do, okay, let's going back to the question. We have 1, 3, okay. So I'm just going to call this 2, let's call this number 3. It's going to be 1, it's going to be 2. So running this, let's see if we get exactly the same over. Okay, something like this, right? We have few now, so I'm going to do is just quickly fix them. So if now, it's going to do something like this. If now, again, going to do something like this again. Just make sure that's similar to the end results on the page. Okay, something like this. Running this, okay, now we're good to go. Now the next one, just go back to this JSON. So just pick up one JSON file here. Let's see what's the next column. End of rain, okay, which is exactly the same as previous one. So m value, right? End of rain, string as end of rain. Right. Just executing this. Okay, we got this now. Next one, duration and depth. So going back to this JSON object here, looking to this duration and depth. Okay, they fall under the same array. So again, m value is the duration first, right? Duration string as duration, comma, m value depth string as depth. So running this, let's see what we get. With duration and depth, so that means we have to get the same in here. Duration and depth. All right, cool. Now what's the next one? Age at time of death years. Okay, age at time of death years. Okay, let's see. age at time of death years. Okay, let me see, going back to here. Okay, so I'm gonna do here is again, it falls under the same array. So value, just make sure to copy the same age space time of death. So here I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna keep as type string for everything, yeah? As age, what did it say here? Age at time of death years. Okay, age time of death years, something like that. Okay, looking into this, I've got something like this, right? So let me see. Time death years. Okay. Let me just go back to this. It says 53 years. It's all numbers here. I've got years. Okay, let me just quick fix that. So in order to do the, what we can do is we're going to split, and we're going to make this, there's n number of methods you can do. What I can do is I use some string manipulation to this, right? So I'm going to do something like this. So I'm going to use split. So I'm going to split this string and then make sure space between here. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to use split this by space, right? So this creates basically an array, right? I could split this by space in between. So we call this number here element 0 and years as element 1, right? So I'm going to do here as 0, something like this. Let me see if this works. Okay, here we go. So what I did is using string manipulation, this creates you an array, right? So you have, if you go back to, let me just go back to this bit here. So going back to this, so because I'm only interested into the numbers here, so what I did is I used string manipulation and let's say this split method in order to split those two, right, by spaces. So this is 71 is going to be element 0 space, and it's going to be years is going to be element 1. So if I put 1 here, look what will happen. So I will get years, right, as output. Years, right? So I'm going to change it to 0. And what I've noticed here, oh sorry. So here, what else I noticed, because we got these literals here, right? Just gonna do string. Let me quickly see something here. String. Okay, here, something like this, right? You can say int as well, but I'm just gonna keep this a string, right? It did this. I mean, it didn't really ask us to do the data types, but yes, one more thing is make sure that I keep everything as varchar or string or text. Make sure you keep something like those date, time object is date, and the numbers of integer. So for this purpose, the challenge purposes, I just keep everything a string, right? Now next, I'm just gonna say, we quickly see something else. Let's see, 50 place of, oh, we got 2 columns left. Place of death. Okay, going back to this. See. So death. Yeah, place of on the same, falls under the same array, right? So value place of death string as place. Let me quickly see if it's a capital O here. Okay, it just doesn't matter because Snowflake gives you everything's capitals anyway, right? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I've got this now. Okay, the last column, right? We will place. So let me just go back to place. So comma value row place string as place. Running that. So go something like this. Okay, I think that's done. let's see what else we got in here. I think that's all. So this, what did it say? Let me just paste this under here. Separate columns for nicknames and columns of 1 to 3. Many will be nice. So yeah, we have done that because these two are arrays. So that's ticked off. And ID in chronological order birth. Okay, we're going to do that. And interhouse ID in order as to in the file. There should be 26 rows at the end. How many rows? Okay, I got 26, right? You can see here clearly 26 rows, so that's correct. So let's just do the first one here. ID in chronological order birth. So looking into this, and let me see. I've just re-executed this. Birth. Okay, chronological order. So to do that is, I mean, you can use any methods here. What I'm going to do is just create row number function, like a window function, right? Something like this. Row number over order by. So you can't say order by birth here, right? So what you're going to do is just copy this bit here, right? This whole element here, birth, right? It's going to do something like this, right? And then what you can just copy, you could just say string here. This is optional. Basically, these are optional, right? But it's best to keep them as, let's see, what's the code? As ID, right? I think it's called ID. ID. All right, let's just run this. Going to the first column. Okay, so we have 26, 1 to 26, right? Let me see what's in there. 1. Okay, so chronological order, right? 1 to 26, pretty much. What's the next one? Okay, that's ticked off. And interhouse ID in order as they appear in the file. Okay, how do we do that? Interhouse ID. Let's see. Interhouse ID as they appear in the file. Let me see this bit. Let's see how it works. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I think this is a bit tricky. Okay, let me see an example of the output here. So if you see here, let's pick up, say, 100. I think this is a bit of an analysis work to do. Okay, here, let's say Saboya is 1. So I can only see Saboya in this column here, alright. And you have how many here? 1, 7 here. Okay, this is similar to what we got here. 1, 7. Austria. Okay, it's just basically given an ID. Born Austria. Okay, Austria. Where's it say? Okay. Okay, let me quickly see. Let's test out with Saboya first. 1. Okay, let me see. Saboya. Okay, wait. Let me see something. Let me quickly create an index in here. Let me see. So h.index as what's called interhouse, right? Interhouse ID. So index gives you just basically an index, right? So if you see here, let me quickly run this. Index based on 0. Okay, it's not looking. It's expected 0s. Okay, it's because it's 0 base, just say +1. Yeah, let's say index +1. Let's see what we got here. Okay, 1 I've got as Austria. Let's go scroll down. I only got 1 up to 5 in here. Let me see here. This just goes up to 1. So you have 7 here. You even have 10. Alright, this doesn't seem correct. Okay, let's see. Let me quickly see the JSON file. So let me just open up the whole JSON file here. because I've did this as H, which is houses. So houses here. It's gonna one. Look at Austria's. Let me see. Is Austria one? Austria's one. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me just order this by order by interhouse ID. Okay, Austria's one. Okay, Austria's one. Okay, let's do this. 2 is Bonaparte. Bourbon is 3. Saboya's 4. Trastamara is 5. Okay, the reason why you see Austrian Bourbon as 1 is because if you see houses, this big house here, this is the first element in this houses array. If you scroll down underneath, there was another one, right? Yeah, here. Houses, and the first element is Bourbon. That's why this is given as 1, and this is given as 1, right? Because we did index plus 1, so it's not 0, it starts from 1. And okay, let me quickly see if it did. Okay, let me see. What's number 10 in here? But I said Saboya was. What did Saboya say here? 4. In here. Here. Let me see. Oh, not this here. This bit part here. Let's see what we can find. Saboya is 1. Let me see this file here. Because Saboya is 4. Okay, let me go back to the JSON file. So I have got this. So if you do, instead of doing H index, do M index. So because this is gonna be 1 for Bonaparte, right? And so let me see Saboya. Yeah. Okay, Saboya is going to be 1 because this whole thing is going to be your positioning. This is going to be 1 under Saboya, right? So this is 1, which means Bonaparte is also going to be 1, right? Because there's only one element. So, for example, Austria is going to be a bunch of them. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, whatever, right? So let me see if it's similar. So let me see Austria. Is it 1, 2, 3? Let me see. Oh, it's going back to this. Austria is going to be 5, right? Okay, there are 5 Austria. I mean, yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think it's because the elements, right, into house. So just within the elements, right? So if it's Austria, there's going to be 1, there's going to be 2. So after, just straight after the comma, right? So 1, not these commas here, just the array, right? The whole array is going to do something. Okay, it's going to be, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to do this comma here. So 1, so if you see the bulk, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so therefore the code change is going to be M index, right? Just make sure you know the difference, M index. So I want the index starting with anything with this array, not this array here. So this is going to be denoted as 1, whereas Austria is always going to be 1, right? And the next element, this is going to be number 2, whereas you want these bulk of messages to be your listed down as an interhouse ID, right? So it's going to be M index, right? Okay, what I'm going to do is run this. Let me see if it's, let me check if it's working. Oh no, it's going to be second column here. Okay, I've got 210. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Let me just remove the order by close. Something like this. All right, I've got 10. Let me just go back to this. Okay, trust 7. Austria. Okay, Austria is 4, and then it had a gap, right? Yeah, it had. Okay, it's just similar to this. Let me just go back. So Austria. So there's 4. So a gap, 2, and then Austria again, right? So this, yeah, this is correct. Okay. Yeah, I think it looks good. Oh, Saboya's one as well, right? So yeah, it looks good. So yeah, I think this is quite of a somewhat difficult task. Let me just create a table on top of that. So I think we have to tick everything what says on the statement here. So you create or replace table final JSON. Let's say final week 4 challenge. Let's put as like this, right? So I'm gonna do run this. Okay, just say select everything from final week 4 challenge. Okay, I've got something like this. All right, I think this looks exactly the same as what we got on the output given, pretty much. So this is exactly the same what we've got here. So making sure that everything is aligned. So yeah, I'm pretty much happy with this task. This may be a quite difficult challenge, so please rewatch the video if you need some help in order to learn on how to use, the lateral flatten function or something like the special characters here. How do we invoke elements with an array? So one more thing is this bit here. So you can do something like this: input and arrow sign, right? Some similar to this input arrow sign, but no one really writes it because this is basically the same, right? Okay, I'm just recreating the table again. Look, this is basically the same, right? And you can write something like this. Oh, I've got few nulls in here. Okay, that's fine. Few nulls. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I think because I didn't put this if now. I mean, you understand this, right? So it's just basically making sure that um anything with this now, because of course we want to make sure that's everything blank. Just use the if now function and write down with these columns here, right? So this will work. So back to what I'm saying is, instead of saying lateral flatten JSON data houses, you can say lateral flatten input arrow sign, or you can do something like this as well. Let me just copy this bit here, so I don't want to keep recreating the table. Instead of saying lateral flatten, you can say, so yeah, instead of saying a lateral flatten, you can say input JSON data, right? So I've added this bit in, right? But which gives you exactly the same output, right? I'm just gonna select this, and I don't want to recreate the table every time, so I'm gonna select the select statement here. So if I run this, sorry, it's a bit lateral flatten here. Lateral flatten. So I'm gonna run this. So this gives you the same output. So if I just remove input, this will also give you the same output, right? And then one more thing is, you don't need to write lateral flatten all the time. You can just say table flatten, right? You can just open up the brackets, close down here, something like this, right? Table, open, close down here. So of course, this extra parenthesis is needed to use the table keyword function, and you get the same output here as below. So yeah, that's how it works. So I know this can be a difficult task, as said before, but yeah, keep rewatching the video and make sure you understand how JSONs work. And yeah, that's it for today. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.